Well, hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome to another episode of the Age Groupies Podcast, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Mike Ergo, and along with my co-host Lindsay and Hiken, we're here to talk to you about all things related to endurance sports from an amateur athlete perspective. Talk about how to have fun along the way and make our sports a little less intimidating. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay, Hiken, and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us, agegroupies@gmail.com. If you guys like the show, please leave us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
I want to talk to you about UCAN Superstarch. UCAN is what I consume on the race course and for long or intense training sessions. Now, it's different than any sports nutrition out there because they use Superstarch. Superstarch is a complex carbohydrate that doesn't spike blood sugar, delivering a slow and steady release of glucose into the bloodstream. Stable blood sugar provides steady energy to both the muscles and the brain and controls cravings caused by blood sugar lows. I recently used this to complete the Pandemic Man 70.3 using only UCAN, and let me tell you guys, I was surprised by how well it worked. Pleasantly surprised. I didn't need to use any gels, anything, just UCAN. And I felt great. I didn't feel bloated, didn't feel hungry, didn't have any of those intense cravings I get on the race course a lot. So I want you to try it out too. Learn about why you should fuel the pursuit with UCAN and save 10% on all your orders by using the link in the show notes. Thanks.
Let's start. Let's kick it off.
You kick it off.
Lindsay, what's up?
Hey, not much. I mean, a lot and then also nothing. Does that make sense?
It does, but as the therapist in me would say, can you expand on that?
Yeah, I am doing my workouts. I have my coach for the most part, but I'm also like kind of just tired for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't have COVID. I'm just tired. You know what I mean?
You like physically tired? Or you think it's like mental fatigue too? Kind of like,
yeah.
Seeing races start to get canceled and wondering like where we actually are in our training block, you know?
Well, no, I think, so for me, I'm happy to get back to regular training because all last year I was studying for the CPA exam. So my training was super sporadic. I mean, I would do stuff, but it was like whatever. I think I'm exhausted, like bone tired from that push of working full time and studying for the CPA exam. And,
oh yeah.
And there's sort of like, even though I mean, technically I passed in end of December. I didn't know till mid-January. And then there was just sort of this like, and then I was super busy at work.
Right.
And now they're sort of like getting back to normal work hour. And I'm just like finally, I feel like it's like if you deal with some sort of accident and then later on you know, are like, you can deal with it. Yeah.
People get sick right after finals in school. So it makes sense.
I did every finals. After finals, I would get sick. And then this year after the CPA exam, I didn't get sick because I was too busy at work to feel like I could do anything. And now I'm starting to be like, so I'm just, trying to be gentle with myself and recognize that, yeah, I should do the workouts I can do, but like, I mean, it's not like I have a race coming up right around the corner. So if I miss a workout and take a nap instead, then oh well.
Yeah, I'm really working on consistency myself because we're starting to see some of the spring races get canceled, like pushed back. And if we're looking at the Ironman circuit at Oceanside, which is supposed to be the end of March, I think already it was sometime in early February they pushed it back to September. So we're seeing that with some of the early spring races. And as far as my race calendar goes, the first thing I have is Ironman 70.3 Ohio, which is end of July.
Okay.
So we'll see if that goes forward. I think it should. But then, what was I going to say? Alcatraz, August. Kona, October.
Excuse me.
I'm not close to any races right now either.
Yeah.
You know, it's
just I have on my my dream list for this year, just doing Donner Lake Triathlon. probably the Olympic or the sprint. Probably the Olympic. And then I want to do the Tahoe Xterra, and that's so that Donner is at the end of July, and then Tahoe Xterra. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
When is that?
That's in August.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we'll see. My heavy ass mountain bike. I mean, it's not like my mountain bike is 2,000 pounds. So your girl's going to go slow going uphill, especially at altitude.
Oh, yeah. That's a totally different factor in like those Xterra events, because you're not like getting that flat, smooth, road cycling cadence.
But I love, the idea of doing lake swim, mountain biking, and then a trail run is just like,
yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So that's on my plan. And then Ironman 70.3 Indian Wells, which is in December. So I feel like there's a really good chance that one will happen.
I think so.
I'm very hopeful.
It's like,
yeah.
I put that on my top 3 of most likely to happen.
So I have things coming up, and I want to do well at them and not be injured. And I'm like, I need to just work on my consistency. And I've been struggling with that the last several weeks, and in terms of my workouts that my coach is putting in my I'm kind of all over the map. And I just realized like I'm just exhausted from all the other crap I did in 2020.
Yeah, I think this year the win is getting to a race and just doing it, and whatever time it happens.
Oh yeah, for me at this point, the win for me is just showing up for myself on a daily basis for my workouts, and like, oh yeah, just
yeah, exactly,
allowing myself to show up for myself, because like Wes doesn't like, if I don't, basically if I'm tired and I get on Zwift and I don't want to do all of the like watts and stuff that he said, I could just do a little spin. He'd be okay with that. But one of the things that's been happening is I've been like putting myself aside, like, oh, I'm tired, and so I'm not getting up early enough to give myself time to work out before work. And then I'm getting sucked completely into work, working through lunch, and not feeling like I can take time to work out.
Yeah.
So I need to figure out like what's happening. I need to take care of myself, I need to give myself rest, and then I need to like get up early enough so I can do what I need to do for me.
Yep.
And
that's a tough one. I have naturally started falling asleep super early now, so that hasn't been a problem for me to get up early. But sometimes when I get up early, I don't necessarily do anything. So it's been about the consistency now, and getting back into the workouts is great. It's a weird thing when you look at, like your bike on the trainer and be like, I could do that, or I could just sit here and stare at it.
Yeah, it's in my office. It's like, it's right next to me. And I'm like, yeah. So yesterday I have to say yesterday, I didn't get my workout in, and but I'm okay with yesterday because I helped out a sober woman I know needed someone to just sit and talk with her, and so I spent my hour midday doing that. And so it's like, unfortunately, my work schedule right now is too busy to do that and then also work out. And so I'm okay with that, but I think getting back to like and maybe this is coronavirus related, like, since you brought it up, I'm usually an early bed, early rise person, and I've been kind of drifting and going to bed a little later, and then getting up later, and then having to start work right away, and then working later, and then you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if it's because everything's happening right in my little house now, so my schedule's way off, or what? Because usually I'm like 9 o'clock, like, let me be out, and now it's like 10:30. I'm farting around on my phone, like, what the heck? So
that is quite the drift. Yeah. Speaking of drifting and things getting stressful, I heard you might have backslid.
Oh, shit.
You might have backslid a little bit.
Oh, my God.
We want to tell our listeners what happened.
This is the Lindsay Has Therapy with Mike episode.
It's okay. Take your time.
I did. So if you all been listening to the show, you remember that Mike and I committed to giving up red vines. And I relapsed. I just, and I did it in a very, like alcoholic addict sort of way. Like, if you're sober, you already know about this. If you're just a normal person who doesn't have a problem, which probably most of you are, if you're not sort of vigilant to a certain degree and like have some guardrails around yourself in terms of like your behavior, it's very easy to slip into a place where you just compulsively act, right? So that's for me. I mean, people do it different ways. I have a program and I have a sponsor and I like that kind of thing. And that's sort of my guardrails around like alcoholism. It keeps me from just like compulsively picking up a drink, but I don't have that really around red vines. And I have a partner who is a red vine addict, but is like happy about it. You know, those alcoholics who just don't give a fuck. And they're like, I'm drunk all the time. I don't care. He's one of those with red vines, right? Like, I don't care. It also doesn't affect his weight at all or his performance on his bike at all. So there's that, right? It just doesn't keep him up at night, doesn't make him fat, he doesn't have prediabetes like I do. So he's always eating them. And, we were sitting on the couch watching a show and just chilling, which is something we do pretty much every night. We sit at some point together and just maybe watch even half an hour, but just to spend some time together. And, I usually don't eat anything and he eats his little snacks, and he had a fistful of red vines, and I just reached over and grabbed some out of his hand and shoved them in my mouth. And they were so good, I got my fat ass up and walked into the kitchen and got some more. And then a couple of days later, I had some more, and I have, I've recommitted, but I definitely relapsed and went on a little run there. And so,
I know it's like when you have the first one, then it becomes like, fuck it, let's run this one. Smoke this one to the filter.
That's right. That's what they say for people who have a drinking problem. One is too many and 1,000 is never enough. Because once you've had one, you can't get enough, right? So, and that's how it is for me with red vines. Like, I'm either going in and eating whatever, or I'm not, or I'm just abstinent. And the scary thing for me, like on a serious note, is that I really am. I need to address the prediabetes because I'm so close to the type 2 number. And I don't have the luxury in terms of being pre-diabetic of just like, oh, it's just a weight gain. It'll drop 50 pounds, drop 40 pounds. And it'll, because I'm within the normal weight range. And so that's not really the issue. And I exercise and I generally eat healthy, which are basically the things they usually start people with when they have prediabetes. Yeah. So I'm already doing those things. And so for me to be then eating a bunch of, and red vine's like mainlining sugar. There's nothing else in there. It's not like I ate something that has like any other ingredients, which might be beneficial in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sugar, red food dye, and some like gelatinous.
Yes. Exactly. Nothing found in nature, basically, is what we're at. But man, they're tasty. And you know what? With the big thing is that he had the red and black vines, like party pack.
Yep.
And that's what did it. Those, like the red and black together. Oh my gosh.
It's like our podcast, Red and Black Together. Can't beat it.
I know. We should have named our podcast the Red Vine Party Pack or something, but so I'm confessing here, and I'm, resetting my Red Vine sobriety date, and I've had, like 4, or let me think here. I think it's been like 4 or 5 days since I've had any red vines.
That's good. So I absolve you of your sin.
Thank you.
Go and say 10 Hail Marys and 2 brick sessions.
Oh, shit. I can do the Hail Marys on with a brick. So, and and the thing that's funny is that this could also be contributing to my, the fatigue I'm feeling. It's just like putting my body through all that sugar. Cause along with that, like I kicked up cravings for carbs. So then I ate a burrito. I mean, it was this whole cycle of like me eating all the stuff that, is not really recommended, which is not going to, it's all like linked together. Like that doesn't contribute to me being consistent with my workouts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, I think I could be totally pulling this out of my ass, but I think if you can abstain for maybe 3 days, those bacteria colonies in your gut kind of die out. The ones that are super craving sugar. That's a long 3 days though. That can be tough.
Well, and so speaking of the gut microbiome, I have a friend who is a nurse and an endurance athlete, and she recommended I try. It's an app, but it's also like a science thing called Day 2. She did it, and I'm gonna try it. So basically, they send you a little kit, and they take a stool sample, which is kind of grody, but is what it is.
Nice.
And then they do a full basically breakdown of like what your gut microbiome is, and that informs like how you should eat in terms of helping you support a healthy microbiome. But then there's an app with it, and their whole theory is like you can't really, like, calorie counting and that kind of thing doesn't necessarily make a person healthy, because you could eat a low number of calories of all non-nutritious food and it doesn't support you. And everyone has their own individual makeup, so they kind of use your gut, the microbiome, to inform what things your body needs most and needs less of. And so then there's an app with it, and it has your specific profile, and then you log your foods, and when you want to put in like to eat something, it'll tell you in terms of how it affects your blood sugar specifically.
Really?
Yeah. So like my friend was saying, when when she put in a whole apple, it does by color coding, like red, yellow, green. So she put in a whole apple, and it was basically red, meaning like your body's not going to, it's a lot of sugar for your body, and your body's not necessarily equipped for that. And some people can probably just eat a whole apple, but it suggests like alternatives. So when she put in half an apple with a handful of nuts, green, so then that's a handful of peanuts. So then that's what she ate instead of just eating the whole apple.
Oh, wow.
And she said it really helped regulate her blood sugar. It's really good, she said, for pre-diabetics and diabetics, because this way, and they've got this massive library of food, like over 1 million items in there. So you can find most of the things that you're going to eat, and you can put it in.
I thought you were going to say massive library of like shit samples.
Well, they have that too.
Yeah.
They have just a ton of shit. So I'm waiting to receive my poo kit. So hopefully this will help me, because if I'm putting the food in there, I can put red vines in there, and it's just gonna be like red. I mean, you can eat it, but
yeah, exactly.
But know this, like, this will spike your blood sugar. This is what's happening. And like, I think I'm hoping that will be helpful for me generally in terms of performance too. Like in terms of my, when we get back to racing, like figuring out what would be probably optimal in term, for me to, on a long ride or training ride or race or something, what should I bring? Maybe the answer is a bunch of nuts and an apple, or maybe it's something else, because some people need a higher level of protein or less or more or whatever. So I'm excited. I'll let you know how it goes. That's
interesting. Yeah, I'm tempted to try that out too.
Yeah, it's called Day 2. I can send you the link. So my friend is not diabetic or pre-diabetic. She's a nurse. She just is interested in optimizing her own body and is curious about, what was like about basically maintaining a healthy gut microbiome, because they're now finding that like a lot of things stem from your gut. And there's even the theory that certain thoughts stem from your gut. So when you were talking about the cravings, the bacteria that crave the sugar produce whatever chemicals or whatever. I'm not obviously not a scientist, but that ultimately produce the thought, I want to eat red vines. And it's the bacteria trying to survive because they need the sugar to survive.
Exactly. Then it takes the form of like Gollum being like, my precious red vines.
Yeah. And it's interesting as a sober person to think about the idea that there are bacteria in your gut that are basically trying to drive you in a certain direction to support themselves.
That's
like
fascinating.
There's a lot of sugar and alcohol too, right? And so that I think, I mean, not that this is going to change anything I do about my sobriety, but I just mean like that feeling of like really almost like an outer body experience of like, I just need this thing. I need to ingest this thing. After a certain time of sobriety, I was thinking like, that's a weird quirk to have to ingest a certain thing. Like, I mean, it's a mental illness and I have it, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's an interesting, but I feel like there's like maybe two components. Like I have the mental illness side, which is looking for something external to make me feel okay. Right. And because I'm a mess inside, there's like something I need help with and I don't have a healthy tool. And then there's the other side of just that like gut microbiome wanting sugar. And there's that drive to just go get that like thing. And it basically is switched from booze to red vines or gelato for me.
Gelato. That sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's interesting to see like how long it takes. I mean, I think it's 3 days mostly for a lot of things, but how long it really takes before those cravings like die down. And if someone would know, okay, I'm feeling this now, but if I just last like X amount of days, then this won't be an issue. I can hold out until then, because outside of that, it just feels like I need red vines and I'm going to need red vines later. So let's just eat them now.
Yeah. I'm going to need them until I get them.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you're right. So I've heard, a few days, but then also I've heard that like around the 30-day mark, you'll get another spike. And then some people get it like with alcohol or with drugs, they get it again, like in the 6-month mark, and they get, there's like a little bit of like cellular releasing of whatever that causes like but so I think the key is to learn that even over that 3-day period, at least this is my experience, if I don't do the thing, the craving goes away within a much shorter period of time. 5 minutes, 10, an hour. It may come back again in that 3-day period, but it goes away. It's not like for me, like a 72-hour just craving. It's like,
right.
It's like
you're not on the rack getting tortured for that long.
It's like 15, 10-minute cravings over a 72-hour period. And if I just last through the 10 minutes, I'm fine. And actually it gets less and less and less because it's like I lasted that 10 minutes and I feel even better because I'm like, wow, I still don't feel like shit. I still didn't eat a bunch of red vines and spike up my blood sugar. And then that, that informs my next thing. So have you just been completely off the red vines this whole time?
Yeah, let's be candid though. And I haven't done any red vines, but it's like everything but red vines. So I've been eating gummies and all kinds of other bullshit that's there, but it's like my line is like, I'm not eating red vines, right? It's just like when people are alcoholics, they're like, well, I'm not living under a bridge, so I'm not an alcoholic.
Right, I still have all my teeth, so I can keep doing meth.
Yep. So,
oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, so it's not like I'm in that much of a different boat than you are.
It's like that time I tried to quit drinking by just smoking pot only.
Yeah.
Didn't go that well. I mean, it didn't change anything. Yeah, but I mean, one step at a time. You let go of the red vines, and I think there are different. Well, never mind. I was going to say I think there's different. I feel like certain, and maybe this is just my wishful thinking, like maybe certain types of sweets are better than others, like a dark chocolate is better than a whatever, but you're eating gummies and gummies are the same thing as red vines. It's just a different
same shit. Yeah, just different shapes. Like, oh, this one looks like a bear or a worm and not a vine. Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's I mean, I can't totally blame my family because I'm the one eating them, but they are there.
Right.
They are there, and I usually don't buy them. But for me, this year, it's been about finding a healthy relationship with food. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like binging and then purging was a big thing in my life. Mm-hmm. And so what I've been doing lately is been able to enjoy some things without going overboard.
Ooh.
Almost, yeah, exactly. Almost as like those normal people who can say like after like a first or second drink, be like, oh, that's good.
Yeah. I just want to enjoy myself. I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? There's a whole like 9/10 of the bottle left.
Right.
You can't stop now. That gin's going to go bad.
Right. I still don't understand them. And that's how I know every day that I am an alcoholic without drinking. It's like I would never leave half a glass of anything laying around.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. How are you, I mean, are you consciously practicing like I'm just going to have a moderate amount of this, or are you finding that you're just doing it?
It's taken a lot of therapy and working through it. Like, yeah, I don't think I've ever shared this before. But it's been working with a therapist and working on, being able to tolerate that full feeling and saying like, okay, this will go away as a way of like, okay. And then the next step was, I don't necessarily enjoy this super full feeling. So maybe I won't like go all out this time. And so,
'cause you would literally binge until you were full and then purge like,
yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I've not done that. That is I've heard a very tough thing to
Yes.
recover from. So
Yes, it is falls under the category of eating disorders. And so I don't think it's too uncommon in our sport. I think it's just so like shame inducing that people don't really bring it up. You know, so I know
especially for men, I feel like
it's less common in men because it's like, oh, it's a girl thing. You can't talk about it.
I feel like it's not even less common for men. I feel like men just can't talk about it.
Could be. Yeah.
I mean,
so here I am.
Awesome.
Breaking barriers.
I mean, it's truly amazing. Is this something that developed in relation to the war stuff, or is this a separate?
It really, I mean, it was there a little bit, but it wasn't, I'd say like PTSD was kind of like, I need something. And then especially after stopping using substances, it's like, you know, became food, you know, just trying to like looking for anything to get rid of the like crippling anxiety. Right. And so it's like, well, this will do it. But now I feel uncomfortable because I'm super full. But
yeah, that's well, kudos to you. That's a huge thing to recover from. I mean, we joke a lot about our mental illnesses and things that we deal with, but the truth is like, I mean, we're badasses. We've had some gnarly shit happen in our lives, and we're
yes,
you know, I did not know that about you, and I appreciate you sharing, because I think this is a topic that a lot of people struggle with, various food or eating disorders and
yeah. And just like, you know, the whole thing like I was talking about, well, I'm not doing red vines, but I'm doing this other stuff. Like we can displace addictions and just put them elsewhere. And we play these mental games like, well, I'm okay because I'm not doing this one thing. So technically,
right. Yeah. I mean, that's the battle for me in my head right now is, I am not drinking, or doing drugs. Drugs weren't a huge part of my story, but alcohol was, I mean, Chardonnay brought me to my knees. It sounds kind of silly, but like your girl was a mess, right? And 2 DUIs, 4 weeks apart from the same cop.
Wow.
So he was like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, because we took your license already. So like that kind of behavior, like really out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, so in my mind, when it's, you know, time to give up the red vines, like on the one hand, I want to, because I'm at a point in my life where I want to be the healthiest version of me, you know, I can be. And I want to honor all the hard work I've done by continuing to take care of myself and be healthy and move forward. Right. But there's the alcoholic gremlin that lives in my brain and will never die. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
I can muzzle her occasionally, but she pops up, right? Is like, hey, you can eat red vines. You're not endangering society by driving your car, right? So
Exactly.
It's a win.
We're not smoking crack.
Right, exactly. Yep. And so I can see how for you switching, you know, if you're not using or drinking, but you're binging and purging, but that's basically mostly for the most part hurting you. You know?
Yep.
So to give up something that's like binging and purging that's hurting just yourself and not a danger to society can be a tricky thing.
It's a very tricky thing because you're right. It's like there's no legal consequences.
Right.
The health consequences are usually like years away, you know, from what you're damaging your body.
Yeah.
You know, so, and, you know, I think I want to give props to the people who are, like we're talking about mental illness and quitting things that are harmful to us. The people that listen to the show that maybe have toyed with the idea of cutting back or quitting something that's harmful to them, or have done that for a few days at a time, because that's a tough thing to do. I don't think we acknowledge that enough, you know, those initial stages of trying to change.
Yeah. Excuse me. Or that was the gremlin that came out there.
I want it now.
Red vine. Yeah. I would say, going back to like our 3-day thing, the initial quitting is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I've been sober 17 and a half years, and it's definitely easier to stay sober now than it was, you know, my first 3 months, or 6 months or a year. It's like everything was new. I didn't know how to behave. It's like, what is, you know,
what do I do with my hands? They're not holding a beer.
right. It's like, how do I, you know, and I would call my sponsor and be like, and she would go, those are feelings, you know, because I didn't.
Those are feelings, yeah.
Because if it was a good feeling, I drank. If it was a bad feeling, I drank, right? So it's like I didn't feel anything. And when I first started feeling stuff, I was like, what is this? You know?
What are these? I don't like them. Yeah, you're right.
And so now it's like I can deal with that. But it's interesting how the human brain is just so, you know, complex. Like, getting sober doesn't solve all of the problems, because that thing is still there. It just wants to latch onto something else. And it latches on to exceedingly like less harmless, quote unquote, harmless things from a societal and legal perspective, in my case. But the longer I'm sober, the more I want to be healthy. So like the path narrows, right? So to where, you know, there was a point in my life where it would have been a fucking win if all I had done was eat a giant thing of red vines that day, right? Like there was a point like that would have been a like high five, girl, you did it, you know. But the path narrows, like you're saying, like for you, it's like now you're dealing with the food stuff or whatever, and you've been dealing with it, and now you're doing a moderate, you know, you're at a point where you're doing moderate intake, which is freaking amazing. And
yeah, it's I feel proud of it because moderation is not a concept I was really born with, as we can relate to. On or off,
right.
It's binary. Yes or no.
Right. I'm exactly the same. And this actually made me think of something. One of the things that might be challenging for us and for other listeners who are on off, we don't have like a sliding scale where I can I don't have a dimmer where I can just turn it on to a medium light. It's like the lights are on or they're completely off. With coronavirus, and not being able to do our races we've removed a big on thing like that.
Yeah.
So I can see why our brains are searching for the other thing because
oh, wow. Yeah, exactly. We're looking for something else. And so for a lot of us, it's that's what you see, people in our community, gain 20 pounds over the last year, raising my hand here because it's oh, well, races are off. That means eating is in,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's, I'm
going to let a little dachshund in the room. 1 second.
Go for it. Yeah. So I just don't really.
Bruno is number one Age Groupies fan, so if he's hearing us podcasting and not part of it,
hi,
he
Bruno.
gets pissed.
He's the official mascot of the Age Groupies. We'll have to we'll put a picture of Bruno on our cover art this week, so you guys can see who we're talking
Perfect.
about. So to connect your work that you're doing on not binging, purging, and moderation, and the physical activity of training for triathlon. How do you, or maybe this isn't an issue, but I feel like for me there is a certain desire to lose weight for race performance that could potentially become an unhealthy focus for me.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm curious about how you kind of walk the line between in terms of being moderate in that way, dropping down to quote unquote race weight. There's a lot of age groupies that are I need to get down to race weight, and I understand, I relate, but
I think that what we need to do, or what's helpful for me, is to step back and look at my body and say, wow, I have this body that can swim, bike, and run. I have this body that supports me throughout the day. Instead of looking at my body and being oh, look at that little pudge there. I should lose that. I don't, I don't look like Patrick Lange, or, I don't look like Tim O'Donnell, shredded 5% body fat or less. Right. So I think that just creates the stress, which doesn't let us lose the weight. And so it's counter to our goals anyways, but those goals aren't really aligned with healthy values. If we can look at the process rather than a goal weight of the process of wanting to eat healthy because we're honoring our body, and just being grateful for the bodies that we have, whatever the limitations are, or whatever the skills that we do have, because then it comes from a better place. I think the place I was coming from before was being so angry and ashamed of what I looked like, that it just leads to a negative spiral of a negative thought, then a negative feeling, which gives another negative thought, and then eventually it's well, what's the point?
Right. Yeah, then you get a case of the fuckets.
Yep, exactly. Many cases of those.
Cases of those are not helpful. That's a good way to look at it, and I'm going to ponder on that a little bit more while I, meditate, because it's true. I think bringing for anybody, bringing the thought process around your nutrition and your physical health internally, in terms of having it be an honoring of, I'm doing this because I love myself and my body, and I want to take care of this body that does amazing friggin' things, you know? I'm always joke like, oh, I'm old, I'm slow, I'm this, I'm that. But this old, slow body got me through an Ironman, which actually is
Did a freaking Ironman.
Right.
Yeah.
We forget because we're in a community of people who do it. So you think it's not that big of a deal because all these other people did it faster than me. But we're a tiny percentage of the actual population of humans in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to forget.
It's way easy to forget. And I think what another little nuance here that I've parsed out is that I don't want to compare myself right now to somebody who I won't say is total. There's some genetics involved, but has put in more time and has made it more a lifestyle to get completely shredded and to get completely in that like triathlon body that we see
Yes,
on the cover of magazines.
I'm familiar.
I don't want to compare myself to that because it's a different person. It's totally different. It's not where I am right now, but I can still draw some inspiration. Like, oh wow, look at this person who's doing these usually healthy things, and what can I glean from that in my own life? But not say like, oh, I don't look like that, I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah. I think I shared with you, I don't think I shared it on the podcast. But I like last week I had a dream that I was racing Kona. Hello.
Yeah.
I had a dream that I was racing Kona. And so then, and I'm not, so here's right off the bat, here's one reason I'll never qualify for Kona. I am unfamiliar with what times need to, like what would be the appropriate time to shoot for to qualify for Kona. Like, I don't even know because I don't care. Like, generally, I don't care. So that's one reason I'm not going to ever, because you have to care.
Yeah.
But I actually looked him up because I was just curious. I'm like, what is a 50 to 54-year-old woman who's qualifying for Kona? Like, how fast is she racing an Ironman? This is just because I was curious. Turns out I would need to shave off at least 4 hours.
And I think once you get past an hour mark, it becomes less shaving off and more amputating.
And more right. And more like I need to be a different person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just to, to your point of like, my comparing myself to another 50-something-year-old woman who can do an Ironman in an 11-hour time, or one of them qualified it at a 10:45. I mean, like there is no point in that. I'm not going to enjoy myself if I'm comparing myself to her, because that's not who I am. I'm definitely not going to put the time in. I don't have the time, and B, I probably don't have the physical. I may just not have the physical composition to bring the pace to that, that fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the same way, like I don't have the physical frame to be the world's strongest man, it's like,
right.
I don't have that big, like Icelandic or like, Danish, like Viking body.
Exactly.
I'm also not of the extreme, endurance athlete body type.
Right.
I'm somewhere in the middle where I can do a little bit of both.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm a great build for an age groupie who's not, on the elite end of the age group, just a middle of the pack, enjoying life, living healthy. It's fine.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I hope for all the people who listen to this show, is just being okay. Not like you're settling for less, or not like you're settling for, not trying.
Right.
But that you can be okay with where you are and actually enjoy a race. I remember Sarah telling me that when I did my first half Ironman, she was watching people come across the finish line with this just totally like pissed off, dejected look, because maybe they didn't have a good race. And it was my first race, so I was ecstatic. I mean, obviously it's going to be a PR no matter what time I get.
Right.
But to do all that training, do all that work, to your celebration day of race day, to get done with it and be like super mad as an age groupie, that just seems depressing.
It is.
It's like, you got to do, your body's in great shape. You got to do a race in hopefully a beautiful venue and have some cool memories, see some cool scenery, meet some people.
and then you're bummed out about it. That's
It doesn't feel good.
I mean,
I've only done it once, and it was a stupid thing. I've only felt that way once, and it was a duathlon, and it was a shorter race, and I was killing it, and I got into transition first in my age group. And it wasn't even age group. It was like, it was a really large age group. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
And came in first in transition. Then I was battling on the bike with this. There were two women that we were kind of trading off. Got in, and I was like, if I can just stay with them, then I know I can probably, because the second run is shorter. Got out of transition, was ahead of them, and I only had a mile, so I was just going to lay down the hammer. But the cone was missing, and I was so focused on running that I kept running past the turning point, and those bitches turned and went in, and I realized a quarter mile passed, and I was like, what? And I turned around. That's the only time I've come in with a scowl, because I was actually going to get on the freaking podium that day, and I came in sixth. I was like, I came in sixth, and I ran a half mile longer than everybody else, so I still had a good race, but I was like, God damn. But I came in that way, and it didn't feel good. It did not feel good to be unhappy with my performance. It just like ruined the whole thing, instead of being like, I actually had a really fun day other than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's a hard attitude to get, to have that kind of say la vie, like, it happened, win some, lose some. It's hard to get to that place, but it's worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. And I would say 90% of the time I'm in that place on a race. Like, I'm just like, whatever, man. I mean, partially it's because I'm going to come in the middle of the pack. So does it matter if I come in 37th or 52nd? Like, who does it matter? But, but for me, it's also just that feeling of how bad it feels when I'm, not to say I won't try, but it's the comparison part.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like, I'm not that person, or I don't have that person's attributes right now. So I'm going to be unhappy the entire time. It's the same way as like during a race, I'm not at the finish line right now, and I want to be there. And then you can have a terrible race that way. It's like, you have to be okay with the fact that, okay, I'm on the first part of the swim, or I'm in, mile 4 of the bike, or whatever it is, and be like, I got to be here right now.
Yeah. I'm usually just out there waving at all the black people I see, like the other two black people I see. I'm like, hey, we out here. And all of us are doing the same thing. We're like, we're in the middle of the pack, but we're out here. Nice. So, I mean, it's all good. And I'm so excited for racing again. I cannot wait.
Oh, cannot wait. Yeah. It's going to be good. It's going to happen at some point this year. Just a matter of when. So
it is going to be weird to be touched, like in the water, like, because we haven't touched each other for over a year. It's going to be weird to be like, why are you touching me?
Well, it's so weird to watch even TV shows that are like from a year or more ago, where people are like in packed bars or like crowded restaurants or sports arenas, and you're just like, whoa, they're breathing on you.
My partner was a total introvert and is not a people person by any stretch of the imagination. Sincerely wishes we could just stay like this forever.
He's just walking around, do. I'm loving it.
Totally. All right. Well, I know you got to go feed those kids. I heard them.
Yeah. Wow. We got deep today, Linz.
We did.
This was cool. We did not have an agenda for today, and we found something and got deep. So I'm a big believer in whatever needs to come up will come up. So
same.
Just proved it again.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all your deep stuff, Mike. And Age Groupie peeps, we will see you next week.
Yeah, write into us. Let us know, agegroupies@gmail.com, what you thought about the episode, what you want to hear more about, maybe things you struggle with that you want an answer, and we'll get to you. So,
and rate and review us on iTunes. You don't have to say, actually, on the review, you don't have to say anything relevant to anything. You can just be like, I eat red vines, or
I eat red vines.
Anything you want. It doesn't matter. It's not for our ego. It's for the algorithm, the Apple iTunes algorithm. That's what it's for. It helps us. So get in there and
it helps us. Yeah.
So help us talk about red vines. All right, everyone. See you next
All right.
week.
See ya. Bye. Alrighty. That concludes today's episode of the Age Groupies Podcast with me, Lindsay Hiken, and my co-host, Mike Ergo. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, as this really helps us get more exposure while we try to grow this little venture. And of course, if you have friends you think might like the show, please be sure to share it with them. But for now, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.